Fidelity High, the people you dig, the records they love.
Kevin Morby is a critically acclaimed singer-songwriter. He was previously the bassist of the band Woods, as well as the frontman of The Babies with Cassie Ramone of Vivian Girls. He has received praise from Vogue, NPR Music, Under the Radar, and countless other publications. His new album, City Music, has been described as a counterpart to his acclaimed and autobiographical release Singing Saw from 2016, which received a Best New Music rating from Pitchfork. It is his fourth solo album and second released via the Dead Oceans record label.
This is Kevin Morby, and My Fidelity High is Silken Soul by Nina Simone. The way I first heard this LP was, it was 2014, it was actually Thanksgiving, and I went to my friend Carolina's house. I'd been in New York to do, I participated in a recreation of The Last Waltz in New Paltz, New York, upstate New York, and I had gotten a ride back down to the city, and I kind of had this amazing day where, just sort of a friend that I just made that day drove me back down into the city. He was on his way to New Jersey, and he dropped me off in like uptown Manhattan, and I just kind of like walked and found the subway, and I took it to Brooklyn to my friend Carolina's house, and it was snowy and it was Thanksgiving, and the city kind of felt like dead in that sort of holiday way, and it was just kind of this magical day. And when I walked into her house, it smelled really good, and she'd been preparing the food. There's a lot of friends that I hadn't seen in a long time, and this record was on, and the LP jacket was sitting out, and I kind of like saw the LP jacket, and the music was playing, and it all kind of hit me, and I kind of came in like midway through the record, and I liked it so much, and I flipped the record, and we just kind of kept it on rotation for the rest of the night, and that was the first time that I heard this record, and it was a big thing for me because Nina Simone's one of those artists who you just hear about your whole life, you know, Nina Simone, Nina Simone, Nina Simone, and you know, it's hard to get an introduction to her because she has so many recordings, be it like proper albums or live records or singles collections or whatever. So this was kind of like it found me, and I was happy that it had sort of finally found me, and I had my like entry point to Nina Simone. I had maybe heard a few songs before this album and always was sort of intrigued, but maybe didn't quite get it. But something about this record, it just really landed on me in a positive way. And I think at the time I was very interested in sort of exploring different ways of making music, or, you know, maybe getting more into jazz, and just concentrating more on certain production things, and being surrounded by a certain type of musician. And like this album, like the players are so good, and there's amazing horn arrangements and string arrangements. And this was right before I did my last record, Singing Saw, and this became sort of an influence, and she became a very big influence just on my songwriting in general, but especially on that album. And there were some like more jazzier moments on that record that were pretty directly influenced by her. The thing that sort of spoke to me about the record and really sucked me in was the first song that I heard, which was the song that was playing when I walked into this dinner. It's track 7, and it's called Turn Me On. And there was just something about that song, kind of, she's painting this picture of, you know, herself, or, you know, a character sort of alone, waiting for like some sort of lost lover to come back. And there's this line in it where she says, I'm waiting for some fresh ice cubes, and like the hi-fi is waiting for some new tubes. And I don't know, the way she said it, it feels sort of hopeless, and at least my interpretation of it is sort of someone who is kind of completely like lovesick and hopeless, and no one's really coming, but you're kind of, I almost just envision, you know, this like a drunk person being alone in this apartment, kind of trying to will this thing to happen, but it's not going to happen. And I don't know, just sort of the lyrical content was very vivid, and it really just immediately grabbed me. And yeah, I don't know, it really spoke to me. And actually, that song, I have a new song on my record called Nighttime, and in part of the chorus I say, turn me on, don't turn on me, and it's sort of a response to this song, and that sort of my interpretation of this song, I kind of, my own character sort of blossomed out of that, and on my new record I kind of tell a lot of stories through that sort of character's eyes. I think that's a thing about someone like Nina Simone, is that, because like I mentioned earlier, when someone like that is so implemented into music and you hear about them all the time, it's almost like the Beatles or the Stones or Bob Dylan or something, where you hear so much about them growing up. They're kind of like this peripheral music that you'll hear in the supermarket or something, and it takes you a second, or at least it's taken me a second, to give all of those artists sort of a first chance at all, because they already feel exhausted by the time I even come to try and listen to them for the first time. But then when you dig deeper, you find out that it's the best music of all time, which is maybe, why it's so implemented into our culture. But the thing about Nina Simone is she's so fearless, and she's this sort of radical black woman in the 60s. When the political situation there was very, very heavy, and the race situation was very heavy, and she's just kind of like this fearless woman at her piano, and her lyrical content a lot of times is very political, and it's I just think the word for her is fearless, and that's what's so amazing to experience with her music, is that it's just someone who can't be contained. And in some of the music, I think, to an outsider, someone who doesn't know Nina Simone would maybe think that, like, oh, it's this easy listening jazz or something. But when you dig deep, you find out that it's like the punkest thing of all time. It's really amazing. And on this album, I don't know, it's kind of just within the same boundaries of all of her music, which there's a lot of heartbreak, be it coming from racism or the government, or just personal romantic heartbreak. But the way that this influenced me in my own writing, it's kind of like, I'm also a very big fan of Leonard Cohen, and I'm also a very big fan of Nick Cave. And when I was getting into Nick Cave, I was reading interviews with him, and he always mentions Leonard Cohen and Nina Simone. And that was interesting to me, and that was influential to me in itself, just in the fact that when he mentioned that, it's like a light bulb turned on in my head, and I could totally understand how they would be direct influences to his own work. How he perform. I could see how he performs. He's taking stuff that he had seen Nina Simone do, and in certain aspects of his delivery or his lyrical content, he's pulling from Leonard Cohen, and it was kind of this revelation to me, just in the sense of, like, artists borrow, and like art just kind of recycles itself in this way, in this very beautiful way. And I think that someone like her, who's such a force, or someone like Leonard Cohen and someone like Nick Cave, it kind of gives me as an artist almost this, I want to say safety net, but I don't quite mean that. It's more of like this cushion to go outside of myself, and to maybe be a little bit, to do away with some of the fear of sounding cheesy or sounding unlike myself, and just kind of walking that ledge a little bit, if that makes any sense. It's just sort of, I don't know if I'm explaining this that well, but it's when you see somebody who's so fearless, it'll inspire you to take risks that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise. And that's something that she's done for me a lot. Play this record for someone for the first time, I would just start right at the beginning. The way that this record begins is with this amazing drum fill, and then these horns come in, and the first song is incredible. It's a perfect beginning to an album. It's a real like come out swinging sort of beginning of a record. It doesn't ease in. It pops right off.
Thanks for listening to Fidelity High. For an extended version of this episode, including songs from the featured artists, please visit fidelityhigh.com.